Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Dave Neal here, stand-up comedian, and this is Bachelor RECAP, a guy's review. Hello everybody, welcome to Fantasy Suites for Matt James season. If you've never watched my channel before, hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. What I like to do is I take notes, I read them, write them down, go right back to you, no edits, no malarkey, just me, you, and the Fantasy Suite. So let's get right into it. And if you don't mind doing me a favor, hit that like button, or as we like to say, bump your Harrison on top of that like button. It helps the YouTube algorithm. I really appreciate you guys on that one. All right, so Michelle starts it off. She's the first date card. She says, it's time to get even closer. And I'm like, yeah, we know how Fantasy Suites work. I'm sure Michelle's students' dads are watching this episode very closely. By the way, Michelle's going to have perfect attendance at the parent-teacher conferences, after this season. They're going to be like, can I get a selfie with you, Miss Michelle? Matt mentions that he has ran in the past from tough conversations and that he has a fear of long-term commitments, which means, he's going to be perfect on Bachelor in Paradise someday. Matt's dad shows up. Now, listen, I thought Matt's dad was going to show up as sort of a surprise to Matt. I didn't realize Matt would have been sort of running the show here. I thought they were going to spring Matt's dad onto him. That's kind of the impression I got, which would have been horrible. But anyway, Matt's dad shows up, kind of a strange dad, doesn't see him too often. And I've never been so nervous to watch a conversation before. The whole time I'm just like, I wanted it to go well, but I didn't know what I kind of waited all season to hear this conversation. Me, myself, raised without my father, met him in my late teens. It's always been interesting to me to see the dynamic play out between father and son. Very nervous. Matt tells his dad, when I needed you, you weren't there to have this conversation. That affected me. And it was interesting to see Matt's dad go from a playful kind of tone to then realize they're having a real conversation. And it got real really fast. So Matt accused him of just not being there. And then Matt's dad came back right away defensively and said, my father was killed when I was 5. That was kind of his way of saying, oh, you don't think I was there for you? I didn't have a proper dad there for myself. And as we all know, hurt people, as we found out from Taylor Nolan's tweets and the video I made with the discussion from Dr. Kirkconnell from Psychology in Seattle. You understand that oppressed people that are hurt, they lash out at others and they project that onto others. And unfortunately, that's what kind of has this generational kind of baggage that we attain. It's not something that is necessarily healthy, and it needs to be nipped in the bud. And I think that's what Matt's trying to do here. So they have a very interesting conversation. Matt responds to him and says, yeah. Mom was gone because you cheated on her. Matt kind of airs out their dirty laundry. And he says, I thank God that she had the courage to stand up for herself because of the situation you put yourself in. So Matt really takes this moment on national TV to call out his dad. And by the way, shout out to National Women's Day out there today. So shout out to Matt's mom for, setting proper boundaries and not letting herself be walked all over. A lot of people have already said in the comments, tweets, that they think it was bad for them to have this conversation on national TV. And my thought is this. I have a podcast called The Sap where my fiance and I share a lot of personal things. It's a fun, lighthearted conversation about our relationship, but we air out our dirty laundry on there. And it forces us to show up to the table, state our case, listen. It really forces us to be on our proper manners. I wonder if Matt's conversation with his dad would have gone the same way if the cameras weren't rolling. So it could have been the only way that this conversation went the way that it did. And I think it can help out a lot of people to see that healthy conversation and tough conversation can come even after decades of not getting answers that you wanted. That's why we're on the earth, to kind of solve problems for our soul. You know what I mean? So anyway, Matt says, I want to have a relationship with you going forward, and you need to know where I'm at. Matt says growing up, he'd come over, the dad would drop some shoes off, drop some pizza off. He goes, I didn't need any shoes. I didn't need any pizza. I needed a dad. Now that's some powerful stuff. That's the reason we watch the show The Bachelor. It really is, because we see real human dynamics. We see Matt, who's a people pleaser. He wants everyone to get along. What did he want growing up? What did the boy want? He wanted a flippin' dad, okay? And too often we kind of look at people as who they are today, as a grown man, as a tall man, as a strong man. But we need to look at the child that grew into who they are. And Matt, you can empathize with that when you get to know someone's past, where they come from. He didn't want shoes. He wanted a flippin' dad. You know what I mean? It's powerful stuff. I'm glad they aired this convo. Some people said it would have been great if they had this conversation at the beginning of the season so he could have kind of gotten over it and worked on himself rather than right before the fantasy dates. What can you do? They had the conversation. And again, if for no other reason, if the rest of the season's a complete failure, I'm happy that they had this chat. The dad says, "I'm sorry I hurt you, son." I'm watching it. I don't know about you guys. I'm watching this with I'm trying not to blink so I don't cry. I'm just watching this I thought it was really productive. The dad says, "Whatever I can do to help you, I'll work on it. I want you to be happy and not like my relationship." Matt says, "As much as I missed out, there's still a lot of life left to live. I'm not holding grudges. I just want us to," and then this is where it gets crazy, right? Matt says, "I just want us to move forward." And as Matt's explaining what he wants, he's interrupted with a powerful father-son hug. Guys, this is it. Doesn't mean the dad's not a piece of crap. It doesn't mean he hasn't cheated on Matt's mom or this or that, but he's not the dad that you might want, but he's the dad you have. And he knows in that moment to go hug his son. I thought that was such a powerful moment. Leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think. I'm watching that going, whew, boy, give me a tissue. Matt breaks the ice, right? He goes, I just want us to move forward. The dad hugs him. They have a nice father-son hug. And then Matt breaks the ice and says, "I'll kick your ass in soccer." And the dad's like, "I don't think so." And they have a beautiful moment. It's a beautiful, beautiful moment. And it's like, we've just been begging for some authenticity on the show. There's so much stupid drama with Queen Victoria, this and that. And it's like, finally, we get some truth. People ask why I have this conversation on camera. Like I said, this is just the way it had to go down. And maybe the conversation's for us. It's not just for Matt. It's for us, the audience. You have a phone call you need to make with a parent. You got a phone call you need to make with a son or daughter. You got someone you're saying, we'll fix it tomorrow. We'll fix it the next day. Who are you kidding, guys? Pick up the phone and make the phone call. Go have those hard conversations. Let this be a life lesson to us all. Don't put off for tomorrow what you can do today. And if with family, with God knows you have differences of opinion, you can get over that, and you can hug your kid. Tomorrow I'm going to make a video dedicated completely to this issue because Matt James did release on his Instagram that he doesn't want to perpetuate the black absentee father storyline. So he posted a very in-depth article about that. I'm going to comment on it actually later today for you guys who are watching this Tuesday morning. Later today, I'm going to comment on that. And I'm also going to share with you guys my complete story about how I met my dad in my late teens and found out he's a Vietnam vet and a lot of things about him. And I wouldn't be where I am today without a strong mom like my mom who raised me as both my mom and my dad. But anyway, that'll come later on. So guys, definitely stay tuned for that. Hit the alert button. You'll get that. A lot of people are going to comment, "Dave, are you sick?" No, I'm just trying to talk quiet because we moved into a new place and it's late at night. It's midnight over here, so I don't know if I can, want to yell and have the neighbors hear me. We'll wait a couple more weeks before I start yelling at midnight. So we go to Michelle's date, the first date. But let me just state this. I wrote this down. Michelle's soul is as equally as beautiful as her bone structure. She is such a beautiful person, mind, body, and soul. She really is. I always find that when people are beautiful on the inside, it almost transcends their outward beauty. Does that make sense? Like you can see a lot of hurt and hateful people will wear that kind of scowl on their face over time. They'll just kind of feel it. And then those people that just radiate joy, it just permeates through their soul. And you can see it right away on Michelle. So beautiful. So they get to their date, cow rugs, bear taxidermy, a tub of milk. They stick their Egyptian toes in the oatmeal foot bath. This is fantastic. They rub butter on each other's skin. And all I can think about is how the cowhide is going to get ruined. That's all I can think about. Me and my fiance were watching. We go, oh my gosh, they're going to rub butter on their skin and then get on that cow hug. We have a cowhide rug, okay? Tasha is very meticulous about about how we vacuum the rug. We have a cowhide rug. You have to vacuum it along the fur. You can't go against the fur. You have to go along the fur. We have conditioner for the cowhide rug. And then Matt and Michelle are showering in butter beer and slip and sliding down a rug. That wouldn't fly in my household, I'll tell you that much. Not a vegan approved fantasy suite date. PETA is losing their mind on this date, and I'm here for it. They're like, oh my gosh, everything that's wrong with humanity, taxidermy, butter beer, cowhide. Hopefully the butter isn't the only thing that gets churned on this date. You know what I'm talking about? You guys know what I'm talking about. 2 hands. All right, here we go, folks. We're heating up. All right, time for the dinner date. Michelle tells Matt she looks at him as her person, which, by the way, I figured this out thanks to you guys. A person refers to Grey's Anatomy. So thank you, ladies. You guys are my people. These are my people. These are my people. This is where I come from. I've recapped The Bachelor on Fantasy Suite Night. Matt hands Michelle. I'm not here to sing, folks. Matt hands Michelle. These are my people. Hashtag these are my... Leave a comment, hashtag these are my people, and we'll know if you guys watch this far. Matt hands, that's your homework. Matt hands Michelle the note that says, should you choose to forego? I say forego twice a year in my vocabulary. Bachelor Fantasy Suite Day and Bachelorette Fantasy Suite Day. That's the only time you ever say forego, unless you're going to like forego a loan payment that you have. That's the only time you'd ever say forego. Michelle says, I love you, Matt. Then he kisses her, so he doesn't respond back to Michelle and say, I love you. Boy, watching Michelle fall for Matt, it feels like watching a documentary where you know the plane's about to crash, but the passengers don't. You know what I mean? I've used the example of Final Destination before. It's like knowing something bad's going to happen, but the lead character doesn't, because you're just watching Michelle just pour her heart and soul out. And you're like, oh, you just don't necessarily see Matt reciprocating, but boy, does Michelle have a lot of love to give. Matt says, waking up with Michelle, it works. She's an amazing woman. She could be my wife. Meanwhile, Rachael and Brie talk. Rachael says she was sick to her stomach, thinking of Matt with someone else. Michelle shows up, and Rachel's like, what'd you do? It's so funny. Michelle shows up all happy, all radiant. She just had her fantasy suite day, and then Rachel's like, what'd you do? Just hoping that they had like a, Mormon themed date or something. You know what I mean? Like, let's not touch each other right away. I'm just saying, that's what you would always want. If you're going to be in the fantasy suite, you want your date to be the rough and tumble sex. You want everyone else's date to be just like, whatever, some sort of like Puritan culture, leave a little room for the Holy Spirit type of thing. You know what I mean? But if I'm in that fantasy suite, I'm kicking the Holy Spirit out. I'll tell you that much. We don't have room for the Holy Spirit. Not on my time. Take your Holy Trinity and just go wait at the door. Daddy's got to bump some Harrisons, right, folks? All right, so it's Brie's turn. They go hiking through the woods. Great. Brie's turn on a date. So they get Lyme disease. Very nice. Very clear. So it's clearly that Brie is getting the cost-saving date. She's got the affordable date. As Matt mentions, they look like a park ranger and Dora the Explorer. Hopefully he's going to explore her. Oh, geez. Freudian slip. Leave it in. No editing, folks. Brie was confused if the tent was the actual fantasy suite or a joke, which I thought that was the actual fantasy suite. Because as we know in past seasons, maybe it was JoJo's season, I can't remember, maybe it was Caitlin Bristow. They've done like the yurt, you know what I mean? It's like a glamorous yurt. It's like you're bumping Harrisons on top of, it's one thing to have a nice Airbnb windmill. It's another thing to be in a yurt in a lawn somewhere, some desert. Brie was confused. She says, oh, this is great. Oh, good. We're in a tent. Who needs an infinity hot tub? This is awesome. She'll be the first finalist to sneak out of the fantasy suite and get some shut-eye in the hotel bed. There's nothing worse than when you're camping and the kind of sleep you get. You wake up at 5 a.m. because the birds are chirping. You got that one rock that you can't move that's underneath you. Anyway, so they change. They do dinner. Clearly, they're not going to stay at the campsite. They're properly dressed. And it's like, look, we're always critical of Bachelor, but they deserve an Emmy. They really do, for pulling off a season of Bachelorette and a season of Bachelor during the pandemic. As far as we know, no one's gotten COVID from the show. I mean, they really deserve an Emmy for making this show happen. We didn't know if the show was going to happen during the pandemic, so I'm grateful for it. I hope you guys are too. It will be nice when they can get back to traveling, but in the meantime, we'll take Nemacolin, Pennsylvania, all right? So they do dinner, properly dressed. The tent was just a bit. They share stories about being all right despite having absentee fathers. This is very important stuff. And I know people are going to say, why did they pick a bachelor that's got an absentee father, the first black bachelor? But it's like, Dean's father was wacko and absentee. If I was on it, I got an absentee father. I think, obviously there's a trope about the black guy with an absentee father, but trust me, there's a lot of absentee fathers out there. I can attest to that. So, as far as I can say, I like seeing when a family's not cookie cutter. Yeah, it's great to see JoJo Fletcher's family, this and that. Amazing, sure. But it's nice to see a family with flaws that's overcome them. Matt and his mom are that family. Anyway, so Brie tells Matt that she's in love with him. He doesn't say it back, but he kisses her. Hey, credit where it's due for Matt, though, because, plenty of past contestants have said to multiple women that they're in love with them. And it's like, at least Matt's just going to just go right there for the kiss and not, tell it back to him. Right? Matt didn't tell anyone else he loved them, right? Just Rachael? Is that right? Anyway, they do the morning after canoodle. And listen, canoodling's one of my favorite words. I love the word canoodle because it's a very specific thing that happens. And after the morning after of a fantasy suite is a perfect canoodle. They're laying there, his shirt's off. She's just like rubbing him. They're like, that is a canoodle. When you've been in a long-term relationship, you don't canoodle anymore. You fight over who's going to go to the bathroom first, and then you yell at each other for not lighting a candle after. You guys know exactly what I am talking about, okay? Can you handle this? All right, we're moving. I got my soundboard. You guys ready?
You cut the crap.
Cut the crap, folks. Let's move along. So anyway, the morning after canoodle, Brie says, it was everything I expected and a little bit more. Hey, what's going on? There you are. Matt James, MJ in the house. Rachael looks miserable. Poor Rachael. She had a tough one. Maybe Rachael had some CTE, right? She hit the ground so hard. Chances are she might have had a concussion or something. Seeing both women come back from their dates exhausted and in bliss, they've all got just rouge faces. They've clearly been overcome by the good world of Matt James. That's gotta suck, Rachael shared the funniest meme I've seen all season, just mentally destroyed. Look at this meme right here. It's like, oh, Rachael, how you doing? She's just like, I'm dead. I'm done. Because in past seasons, you wouldn't mingle, you wouldn't canoodle with the other contestants while Matt's out there bumping Harrison's, right? You wouldn't do that in past seasons. But maybe this season, because of the pandemic, I don't know, right? Only a few seasons they've actually brought them all together. Now, they've done it before the pandemic, too. It's probably toxic. It's probably not good. But, of course, they just want to roll camera, as Hannah Brown would say. Roll Tide. Ugh. Not her, the accent, okay? It's not you. It's just your voice in general disposition. I'm kidding, folks. Gotta say I'm kidding now. I don't want to offend anybody. They used to not have the interactions. Rachael says, I feel the most nervous I've ever felt before seeing him. I'm worried his feelings have changed throughout the week. So basically Rachel's saying, I'm worried one of these girls gave him the night of his life. Because let me tell you something, as a guy, we can get temporary amnesia from a good night of sex. Women, I know you can too. How many red flags were painted white because of a good night of sex, right? You're like, oh, he's horrible, but oh my gosh, let me tell you what he does with his tongue. You know what I mean? I've overheard some of you ladies at brunch. You're like, yeah, he's a piece of crap. My parents don't like him. The dog hates him. Everyone, he wears his hair stupid and he doesn't have a job, but boy, can he go to town. Okay. You know what I mean? All right. So Rachel's nervous. Their date is ceramics, but Rachel's beating herself up thinking of Matt with the other women. So she tells Matt, I get it. You got to do what you got to do. They have the whole convo. He's like, look, I just wanted to give you some time to recover physically. Because he's like, I'm going to need you to be at 100%, if you know what I mean. Rachael tells Matt she plans on having him as her husband if it's up to her. Listen, give Rachael credit where it's due. She did not hold back. She says, listen, guy, if you're thinking about choosing me, I'm gonna say yes. I am the one for you. I remember when I was going to propose, my fiance was like, well, what if I say no? And I was like, Tasha, you're going to say yes. She tried to play it cool. Like, well, what if I don't say yes? I was like, honey, come on. We're meant to be. You're my person. You are my person. You are. Okay. Matt tells her it's late at night, guys. I'm losing my mind. Matt tells her that he wanted her to be rested up from their parachuting. Matt thought, what would life be like without Rachael? Rachael says, I'm completely in love with you. And then Rachael brings out the killer dress to seal the deal. I mean, killer dress. That's the Mariano Rivera closer of dresses. She's like, oh yeah, last date, fantasy suite. Yeah, give me this short dress with the red velvet with a little like kind of slip where you can see the legs and the tight on the butt. Yeah, that's going to be the one. And then Matt's like, hee-haw, wow. So killer dress, destroy the boy. That dress brings all the boys to the yard. And they're like, how does that song go? Okay. Anyway, she says, I'm 100% ready if you give us a chance. If you have a ring in that pocket and pull it out, I'd say yes. And he says, that's not a ring in that pocket. I'll tell you what, #red dress. They get fireworks as soon as they get to their fantasy suite. Take that, Brie and Michelle. Can you imagine? Imagine being Brie. She's ignoring the fact that your boyfriend's having an overnight. You just hooked up with your boyfriend. Now he's dating somebody else tonight. And then you're just like, I'm going to get lost in the good book. I'm not going to worry about it. And then missiles fly into the air as they're, performing coitus or whatever it's called. Rose ceremony, always the most brutal. 3 fantasy suites. Someone's going home. Michelle gets a rose. Rachel gets a rose. Brie, you got to go. You got to go, Brie. Stone cold dagger eyes. The way she looked at him. Brie handled it very well. She was obviously heartbroken and sad, but she was very stoic as well. Brie says you're going to move on with someone else, and that makes it harder. So it's a fascinating episode, folks. Leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think. I'm going to have a live stream this Thursday at 4 p.m., and I've got videos all day long, every day, tons of content to get through. Please, let's keep the comment section as polite as possible. Let's pretend we're all at a cocktail party here. We're at Dave's cocktail party in the comment section. So please be kind, and I appreciate all of you. And just remember, we're all trying to do the best with the information we have, and that's the best we can hope for. And I will, and again, just to reiterate, call your mom, call your dad, tell your family you love them, because you never know. You never know when it'll be the last time. And, anyway, not to be all sad at the end here, but I think it's important for us to remember what's important in life. So separate your political views or whatever your stances are and hug a family member once in a while. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody. Oh, shoot. I wanted to mention, link in my description. If you guys want to join my newsletter, I'm going to be doing a Bachelor-themed stand-up tour when the pandemic is over, and I'd love to come to your town. So link in the description, and you can just sign up. It's free, and I will email you guys with future information on dates for the tour and also merchandise. Thank you guys so much. Bye, everybody.